run of show. This meeting is being held pursuant to and in compliance with emergency ordinance number 20-A16, an emergency ordinance to ensure the continuity of government during the COVID-19 disaster. The committee members who are electronically present at this time can now introduce themselves, and I will start. I'm Ali Pesh. I'm the chair of the Crozet CAC, and I live near Mint Springs.
I'm Vito Chetta. I'm the developer.
Hi, Vito. I'll get the committee members to introduce themselves first, and then we can hear from you guys.
Hey, Joe for Highlands.
Michael Monaco, the Emerson Commons neighborhood.
Valerie Long, I live in Old Trail.
Mark McKenney.
Go ahead, Mark.
Mark McKenney in West Hall.
Mike Kunkel and Corey Farm.
Sean?
Sean Bird lives off of St. George.
Okay, did I get everybody?
Hey, it's Costas Alibet on 250.
Oh, thank you. All right. Sandy told me she couldn't come tonight. I don't know if we're missing anybody else that's still active. Let's see, where was I? The persons responsible for receiving public comment are the Crozet Community Advisory Committee. Opportunities for the public to access and participate in the electronic meeting are posted on the Albemarle County calendar. And tonight we have our neighborhood planner, Rachel Falkenstein, and Carolyn Schaefer, our clerk, and Cameron, our CDD staff, it says for you, community development here for the community meeting. All right, so do we have enough people to do our minutes? I'm not sure.
I think it would depend on how many people we currently have on the committee. Which is,
Yeah.
Is that,
not
do we
really
know?
sure if any, I don't know if Rachel, you had a chance to kind of check that for us.
So your roster shows 14 online, but I know Doug resigned. So that hasn't been cleaned up on the website. So I think you would have 13. You have some members that haven't shown up, but our process is that they have to actually resign. And they have to notify us that they resign, or they have to be removed by the board. So there are a couple of members that hasn't happened for.
Yeah.
I think, Allie, we might have 7 here. So I think maybe we're good.
Okay.
Sound right?
Good.
Wow.
All right. Well then, yeah. Oh, and Josh popping on just in time here.
Sorry, guys, I was not as a panelist for some reason. Someone helped me just fix it. So
Thank you. All right. Hi, Josh. So we were just about to, someone was going to make a motion to approve the minutes for me. Okay, Costas, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second.
Okay. Everybody in favor approving Valerie's minutes from last time? Yay. Okay. Thank you guys.
And, sorry, Allie, did we also, I saw a note in the thing, the meeting agenda that went out. Did we not approve the November minutes last time? Do we need to do that too?
Oh, right. I don't remember if we didn't do it at the end of the meeting. Yeah. Okay.
Other than the CCA little thing that went out. I'm not sure.
Okay, for well, just to be thorough, I'm assuming at this point we would have heard if anyone had corrections to minutes from November. So if anybody wants to make that motion for me.
I'll move that we approve those November minutes.
Motion.
Thank you. Sounded like a second from somebody. Thanks.
Second.
Okay, everybody approve the November minutes. Can give me a thumbs up, hand raise now. Good. Okay. So hopefully that's all up to snuff. We'll get to committee business at the end, which I'm hoping maybe we don't have Anne here, but I guess next month is, Rachel, do we do elections next month? Or is that March?
I have to check. I don't think it's February, but I can check and let you know during committee
Because
business.
just to clarify when I'm no longer chair would be helpful for me.
Sure, I can clarify that at the end.
Thanks. Okay, so tonight we have the applicants for formerly Whitegate, now Montclair, with us to show us their plans. And Valerie, I'll let you chime in.
Thanks. Excuse the interruption, everyone. I just wanted to make a quick disclosure. I am going to recuse myself from the discussions about this application tonight. I've let Ally and others know and submitted a documentation about it. The county attorney has suggested that I just turn off my microphone and my video, which I will do. I will start with the minutes. For those who don't know, I am the secretary of the committee, so I keep the minutes. If someone else would be willing to volunteer to take the minutes during this particular portion of the meeting, I would appreciate it. And then we can just coordinate afterwards.
Thank you.
Joe.
Joe, you're willing to do that?
Yeah, I can take notes for this part and I'll send them to you.
Great. Thank
Okay.
you, Joe. I appreciate it. So I'm going to turn my video and sound off. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Valerie, and thanks, Joe. I think that's all I have to say. So are we going to start with Cameron?
Thanks, Sally. Just give me a second. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can everybody see? I should say zoning map amendment. Okay. All right, well, good evening, everyone. My name is Cameron Langell, and I'm a principal planner with the Albemarle County Community Development Department. I've been the lead staff member working on the review of the Montclair zoning map amendment application. And tonight we're going to have a virtual meeting for this proposal and share some information with the CAC and members of the public. So to start, I'd like to just share some information about the purpose of community meetings. We hold these meetings in order to give staff and the applicant an opportunity to share information with the public about what is proposed with a specific zoning map amendment application that is under review. There is an opportunity after staff and the applicant present for members of the public and the CAC to ask any questions that they have. Staff members are going to share information about the overall review process for these applications, and then the applicant is actually going to get into the details of what they're proposing. One thing I would like to make clear is that there are no decisions being made tonight on this proposal. This is simply an informational meeting. The final decision on whether this application gets approved is up to the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. At a future date, there will be public hearings held, and members of the public will be able to attend those and share their thoughts on the proposal as well. But I just wanted to make it clear that there's no votes or decisions being made tonight on whether to approve or deny this project. So to begin, I'd like to just give an overview of how the development process works in Albemarle County. Specifically, we're going to talk about the difference between by right development applications and legislative development applications. So to start, Albemarle County has what we call a zoning ordinance, and that has a bunch of land use regulations in it. The zoning ordinance establishes zoning districts that apply to every property in the county. Depending what a property is zoned dictates the types of uses that can occur there and whether development proposals would qualify as a by right development, which is subject to an administrative staff review, or a legislative application, which is subject to staff, planning commission, and board decisions. The zoning ordinance dictates what the uses that can occur on a property are today. And again, those are called by right uses. The comprehensive plan is a different document. Specifically, the comprehensive plan establishes a 20-year vision for the county. It contains overarching policies and recommendations and incorporates master plans and small area plans as they are adopted by the Board of Supervisors. The comprehensive plan contains a lot of recommendations related to land use decisions, transportation improvements, capital improvement projects, parks and open space, economic development, all sorts of things. But again, it's a 20-year vision, long-range planning document. It is not a regulation. In the county, we have what we call our development areas, and there's 5 development areas in the county. Crozet is one of the development areas, and as you all are aware, there's a master plan that specifies the specific recommendations for parcels of land that are within the Crozet development area. Rezoning applications, again, are what we call a legislative review, and they're different from by right proposals. Zoning map amendments, they're also known as rezonings, seek to change the current zoning that applies to a property. When a zoning map amendment is submitted to the county for review, staff review it for consistency with the applicable master plan recommendations and the future land use designations that are contained in the comprehensive plan. We do have partner agencies such as the Virginia Department of Transportation, the Albemarle County Service Authority, and the Virginia Department of Health that also assist us with the review to make sure that the proposal can meet any state or other regulations that would apply. I'm sure you all are aware that we have an architectural review board here in Albemarle County. We commonly call that the ARB. And if a property is within what we call an entrance corridor, ARB staff review the proposal as well. So a zoning map amendment is a legislative application review. Basically, it is a special request that a developer or the property owner is asking for in order to change the current zoning district that applies to a property to a different zoning district that may allow different uses than what is allowed by right. Again, as you can see here, this also talks about the staff that review it. And eventually, once the application is at a certain point, the developer can request to go to a public hearing with the Planning Commission. Staff would make a recommendation to the Planning Commission about the proposal on whether it's consistent with the comprehensive plan or master plans. And then the Planning Commission holds a vote to recommend approval or denial. Then the application would go to the Board of Supervisors for a final public hearing where a final decision is made on whether to approve or deny the project. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the specifics of zoning and the comprehensive plan as it applies to the Montclair project. So to begin, this is a map that shows the location. There's 2 properties that are proposed to be rezoned with this ZMA. They're located on the south side of 3 Notch Road, which is Route 240. To the west of one of the properties, it's bordered by Park Ridge Drive. These properties are located in the Whitehall Magisterial District, which again is in the Crozet development area. There is an existing subdivision to the east, which is Wickham Pond. And then to the south of the properties, there's railroad tracks, and across from there is the Western Ridge subdivision. So again, there's 2 properties that are part of this project. One of the properties is currently zoned RA, rural area, and that area of the ZMA measures 12.19 acres. The types of uses that can occur by right in the RA district are low density, single family residential developments that do not exceed 0.5 dwelling units per acre. That is the white color that you see on the map. Again, our 2 properties are outlined and highlighted in yellow. The western property is zoned light industry, and that measures 5.32 acres. The types of by right uses that can occur include industrial, office, and certain limited commercial uses. These properties are within 2 of our overlay districts, and that includes the entrance corridor overlay, and then the managed and preserved steep slopes overlay district. This image shows the area of our properties, and specifically what it is the future land use recommendation map that is contained within the Crozet master plan. There are 3 separate recommended future land use designations that apply to the 2 properties that are part of this rezoning. On the map, you'll notice there's an orange color, and that represents the middle density residential future land use classification. That recommends that residential uses can be developed at densities between 6 and 12 units per acre And as a secondary use, commercial and retail may be permitted. The yellow color represents the neighborhood density residential future land use classification. And that's a lower density residential recommendation in the middle density. What it says is residential units can be provided as long as they are between 3 and 6 units per acre. Finally, there is the green systems designation, and what that represents are areas that contain sensitive environmental features, and that could include things like perennial streams and stream buffers, 100-year floodplain, steep slopes, other natural areas. And it recommends that those either be protected or privately owned open space and recreational amenities may be allowed depending on the specifics of the proposal. So this is an image that is one of the drawings that was included with the Montclair application. The developer is proposing to rezone the properties to what we call the neighborhood model district. That is a mixed use district that does allow residential and non-residential uses. Specifically, they're asking to have a maximum of 157 dwelling units. And on this image, you see the orange boxes are supposed to represent areas where dwelling units would be located. They are requesting to allow 16,500 square feet of commercial space. And the project right now has approximately 3.5 acres of open space or green space. And that's represented by the different green colors that you can see on the map. This project is proposing to have both internal public and private streets that would provide access to the lots. And there's a variety of sidewalks and shared use paths that are interspersed throughout the development. So I'm going to finish my presentation with just a basic timeline of where this stands. Again, this application is very early in the review process with staff. It was submitted to us for review on December 6th. And a full complete comment letter with comments from all of the members of the review team will be sent to the applicant next week, which is the week of January 17th through the 21st. As of right now, there are no public hearing scheduled with either the Planning Commission or the Board of Supervisors. That will be requested by the applicant at a later date. And I just want everyone to be aware that if you do have questions or comments on this project as it moves its way through the process, you can contact me via telephone or email. Email is usually easier and it's quicker for me to get a response to you. My email address is here at the bottom of the screen. I can share this again at the end of this community meeting tonight if anyone would like to jot it down. It's also available on the county's website if you need to find it. And so with that, I'm going to conclude my presentation, Allie, and I guess we can turn it over to the applicant.
Thanks, Cameron. Go ahead, Vito.
Okay. There we go. You all can hear me? Can you hear me, Allie?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, we can hear you.
There we go. Okay, all right, great.
Thank you.
Here's a comp plan. The county increases in population about 1,500 people a year. And the comp plan is intended to manage that growth. It requires 700 new homes a year. And I'm going to say they've done a wonderful job. It's a fabulous document. As an example, if you were here at 250, 240 driving into town toward the Boar's Head Inn, it essentially looks the same as it did 30 years ago with farms and perhaps a few houses. That would be also true if you took 29 South, if you went on Garth Road. These are generally farm areas. They look like farm areas, white picket, white fences, and it's because of the comp plan, and I very much support it. And so much of the growth is in Crozet. So here we go again. The site is right here. There's a clinic over here. There's a preschool building right here. It's bordered by on the east by Wickham Pond, which we're going to talk a bit about. And across 240, which is not the growth area, that's all farms. Again, this is what Cameron showed. This is 6 to 12 units. This is up to 6 units right here. There's a road, Wickham Way, that is right here now, and it gets extended through the property. The site has essentially been abandoned for quite a while. It hasn't been maintained. There's very few trees on it that are worth saving. We're going to save this group of trees, which is real close to 240. This was the main entrance to the house. Over on the Wickham Pond side, this is the road, dead ends here, sidewalks on both sides. That'll be extended into the community. Again, there's a daycare center existing there. It's quite busy. And the daycare center is here. And they're going to eventually expand into our project. So this is Montclair, 17.5 acres. This portion here is up to 12 acres, and you can get bonus density of up to 18 units, which we're definitely taking care of. This is the neighborhood density, and these are villas. Really kind of single family homes that are attached. We have a park here, we've got a park here. We have a 100-foot buffer from the road. There's a multi-use path here, and you'll see pictures of that over in Wickham Pond. We have a playground area here. We have a multi-use pickleball, basketball court here. This right here is Habitat for Humanity. They built right here, they built 6 units in Wickham Pond. They're going to build 9 to 12 units in Montclair. Again, I'm going to come back and talk more about this. So the villas, that's these units right here. This is what a villa looks like. This happens to be out of bounds, a community not far from Barracks Road. They're big single family homes. They'll be 2 and 3 stories. These will sell for 5.5 to 725,000. More of the same. Then the other, these right here these are mostly townhouses. They're 22 feet wide, 40 feet long. The front door is here, and they enter the garage through a mews, we call it, or an alley. And you'll see examples of that. Then here is these are the fronts facing a kind of a common courtyard. These, of course, face the 100-foot setback. These units will sell for $4.25 to about $550. So that's what these are, 22-foot wide townhouses, green space in front. Same thing, and same thing. Again, this might be an example of the units that face 240. They're 100 feet from the road. And in the back here, the mews is, I call it a mews. You can park, your garage is off that. It's the backyard. You can see how careful we landscape this. You can park a 2-car garage and 2 cars on the apron. And again, you'll see back porches here. Again, these will sell $4.25 to perhaps $550. This is, these happen to be townhouses of a similar size that are in Wickham Pond, right next door. The comment here is that these are front loaded, which means you have a garage in front and you park on the apron. So you can park a total of 2 cars on it. And what we have is you can park 4 cars. You end up not having a backyard, but aesthetically it should be much more pleasing. And here's an example of what you don't want. Here's an alley scheme, and there isn't a blade of grass. This is something you don't want. Now, this is Wickham Pond. This is, here we are. Here's the main road. It runs right through it. This is Montclair. Wickham Pond is all built. When we had this approved, we designed this center here, which is approved. It's intended to be a mixed-use community where you could have a restaurant here, you could have outdoor dining, you could have a courtyard back in here, have a barber shop, spaces like that. But again, we don't own that. And eventually it should be built like this. This is a piece of land. This is a piece of land that it's right here. That we're going to obviously very much improve this landscaping. To the right again is Montclair. The left is Wickham Pond. And again, along 240, we have this multi-use path, and that continues through Montclair. And again, the paths to the left, this is the 100-foot setback. Again, this is Wickham Pond, it's all built out. Let me also show you. So what we have in Wickham Pond is, this is all common areas, very much heavily wooded. There's a pond there. There's a small park in here, another park here with a pavilion, and a variety of housing types. Single family detached, front loaded, some of them with alleys, townhouses, a variety of housing types. I'm going to talk about these in a moment. Okay, so this is a picture of something that certainly influences me. Is this was Washington, D.C., but it could be hundreds of towns in America where you have a sidewalk, you have a green space, perhaps have a picket fence. And these houses here are over 100 years old. It's a wonderful look, and it's something that we're influenced by when we built Wickham Pond, which is this. Again, a 5-foot sidewalk, 6-foot green strip. Now, of course, we love it this way, and it's also a requirement by the county. You don't have the sidewalk along the curb. You have this green strip, and you have a sidewalk. Here's more of the same. This is again the same. This has an alley behind it, front porches. Again, we're very proud of this. It's a fine community. It was started about 15 years ago. Now, in Wickham Pond, we have 27 affordable units. Some are sold and some are rented. These 6 right here are Habitat for Humanity. These are 2-story townhouses with 3 bedrooms. And they're going to be building also in Montclair. They're going to build 9 to 12 units in Montclair. This is home ownership. Habitat for Humanity is a marvelous company, and they have such a good program of having people help build the house. A wonderful concept. And this right here are some more affordable units at Wickham Pond. These are townhouses over a 1 or 2 bedroom unit below. The county has referred to this building in that they refer to them as cottages and bungalows. And in their defining of how to move forward with this, they ask that we ask everybody to make buildings smaller. This is a 7-unit building with units below. There's 14 units in that building, but it's a fairly big building, a good-looking building. Here it is. Again, this was built 13 years ago. This is a townhouse you're seeing here. Again, it's affordable. It's required to be affordable. And And it's now no longer having to be affordable, but the rents have essentially remained the same, which is incredibly important in that we build a product that will remain affordable. This again was under control of the county for 10 years, no longer there, but by its nature, it remains affordable. And that is so, so important. You go around back, here's the access to those lower units. Here's the townhouse above. Now, going back to Montclair, we could have as many as 157 units here. What we have is 80 market rate units, which are most of these, or all of these. We're going to have some affordable in here. This over here, again, is Habitat. There's a commercial space here. We haven't had any action on selling it, but we'd like to see it as again, a restaurant or a series of stores. If not, it'll be housing. Now this right here complies with what the county considers bungalows or cottages. And there are 77 out of 157, 77 are what are considered affordable. 24 of them are required to be affordable, and the other units look exactly the same. There's no difference. So this is 77 affordable units that we're adding to the market. I must say, when we started this, I never thought that would be possible, but it's amazing that it is, and I want to show you how these work. The biggest of these buildings is a 4-unit building. That's what these are. And I'm going to show you a perspective. These are drawings now. This is a rendering of a building that has 12 units in it. This is a townhouse, and below it here are 2 efficiencies. This is a 2-bedroom flat, and the left side repeats the same package. So in this building, which essentially is the same footprint as the $425,000 townhouse, the same size footprint, we have 3 units stacked, 3, 3, 3. So there's 12 units here. The same look in the front. Again, over here, here are those cottages. Excuse me, here are those efficiencies. And then here's the back of the building. These center units are 2-bedroom units that enter from the rear. The other ones enter from the front. These are townhouses. They have a back terrace. And here is the plan of that. So there's a townhouse that sits over top of this. This is a 430 square foot efficiency. There's 2 of them. Literally has a Murphy bed in here. You have a sidewalk out here. You walk through a courtyard. You have a patio table out here. Really a cute little unit. And then this unit is somewhat the same. It could be the same unit. It has an alcove for a bed. Again, the outdoor courtyard. And then to the left of that is the lower level of the 2-bedroom. 2 bedrooms here, 2 baths. They face this way. And above these units right here are these. They face the opposite way. Again, it's the same floor plan, 2 bedrooms, 2 baths. And then this is the townhouse that sits over this. It's a 1,700 square foot townhouse, living on this level, bedrooms on this level. And that's it. I'm here to answer questions.
Well, all right, thanks, Smito. I know we have some attendees that have their hands up already, but I'll give the committee members a chance to respond. Mark, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, sir, if you could leave it on this slide. So the way I'm seeing this is you're proposing 157 units with 17 of them under the affordable, kind of minimum affordable units. Is that correct?
24.
24. Okay. So I understand that your plans here are in line with the recent master plan. However, as a resident that lives in this general area, I have a lot of concerns about this. Just because we can pack a dozen homes in an area doesn't mean we actually should. So I'm generally concerned about, has there been any engineering studies, roadway studies, environmental studies? That southwestern corner by the daycare center, that's a steep hill. That's about probably a 60 to 75 foot drop. That's going to have to get filled in probably with a lot of dirt with what you're proposing there, and concerned about that. The roadway study is very concerning to me because right now Eastern Ave Connector Road on the south end hasn't been developed, constructed, is in the process for probably 5 to 8 years. So for the residents of West Hall, Westlake, Foothill Crossings, Glenbrook, and so forth, there's one way in or two ways in and out right now, and that is through Park Ridge Road and through Park Road into downtown Crozet. So I'm slightly concerned now with the potential of packing in upwards of 314 more vehicles in this 17-acre parcel on top of all the other the 3 or 4 residences we have in this neighborhood. That's a lot of traffic going in and out of Park Road by the clinic and by as you stated, a quite busy daycare center. So beyond connecting Wickham Way and an entrance into 240, if there's any type of emergency in this type of a plan, I just see a train wreck waiting to happen. And that's a major concern of mine, as well as other folks that I've talked to. And again, I know the southern entrance of the Eastern Ave Connector Road is probably 5 to 8 years at a minimum from being ground being broken on that. Have we spoken to the daycare center at all about what the impact of this is going to be to that daycare center?
I'm sorry, what was the question, Mark, about the daycare center?
Have we gained any input from the daycare center as to what the impact? There's not a lot of room in their parking lot as is. And again, my concern is with 314 more vehicles resident to upwards of 314 more vehicles in this area, it's simply going to create another bottleneck here. So I guess I'm just concerned and curious as to what does the daycare center say about this?
Well, of course, they're quite successful and they're quite busy. And with more people here, they're happy and look forward to building another building. And as you can see over here, we've added additional parking. And also, incidentally, Mark, this area in here is totally undisturbed. There's a stream in here, and we can't disturb it. We won't disturb it. And I don't know about this area right here, but there may be a little bit of grading there, but I'm not sure there's very much. Part of your questions are really to the county and Cameron. The county gives us a designation. We're not asking for any variances. We're doing exactly what we're allowed to do. If you're concerned about traffic and you're concerned about density, it's really a question for the county.
Well, I understand that, sir. However, in your plans, I hope that you would address mitigation measures to traffic, environmental, and engineering studies for the hundreds upon hundreds of residents that this is going to impact. Just because you can do this to this extent doesn't mean you have to. And I do acknowledge that a lot of these questions do fall on the county. However, I hope as these plans continue to move forward and go forward for more public comment, that your mitigation measures account for that. Because another major concern of mine is, where's the school zoning going for this? Are they going to Brownsville, or are they going to Crozet Elementary? These are things that, again, sir, and I recognize it's not you that needs to answer this, it's on the county, but these are things that need to be discussed as well, because we're about to fix a capacity issue with schools. And now we're bringing in 157 more family units that are we're going to fix a problem. And then within a year or two, we're going to create another problem within the school issue as well. So it goes back to my original point, just because we can doesn't mean we should.
Sure. Okay. A couple things. One is there's 3 access points to it. One here, and one here. So there's plenty of access for safety. And you could be assured that engineering looks over our shoulder every possible step of the way. Environmentally, I'll give you here, environmentally, it not only pertains to these homes, it pertains to almost any new home. We happen to live in Out of Bounds, and it's like one of these villas. And it is hard to believe how efficient these units are built. Just the technology these days with appliances, with the SEER rating of the air conditioning systems, the insulation, it is incredible how little we pay for energy. So just in general, any new house gets built, especially people like Craig Builders who built this home, they just do a marvelous job. So environmentally, that's built into how these homes are built.
So I understand the environmental piece on the homes. However, move your cursor over to the corner by the parking lot in Park Ridge Road, please.
Yeah.
Go south a little more. Right where your Habitat for Humanity is.
Yeah.
Have you estimated how much dirt you're going to have to bring in to fill that steep hill to be able to build homes in that? That's the type of environmental study that I'm curious about, is how is that going to affect drainage, water flow? That's a 60 to probably 80-foot drop from Park Ridge Road to where your parking lot is. That's going to have to get filled with dirt. And we need affordable housing. We need to look at how we can bring more people into Crozet that can afford to live here. However, sacrificing that at the cost of bringing in hundreds of cubic yards of dirt to build a home, I don't think is the right solution. I'd rather you find a different area and leave that slope and hill unaltered and left alone. That's just my opinion as a community.
No, fair enough. You happen to hit one spot on the site that we do have some grading to do. There's about a 25-foot drop from here to here. And our goal is to raise these units up here and put a retaining wall behind here. You can see it right there now. But other than that, the site is all very doable. Oh, incidentally, I want to add another point. There are trees on this site like there are any site in Albemarle County. And we will be removing most of them, except for the ones out in here. But as you saw in Wickham Pond, we planted a whole lot more trees than we ever took down. And they're now 15 years old and they look terrific. Anyway, I hope I answered your question here. That's the only place that we have some grading and some retaining to do. Other than that, we don't have any.
That's all I have, Allie.
Okay. Michael, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thanks. I was wondering if you could clarify a little bit. You mentioned the habitat units and then additional affordable units. And so I was wondering if you could speak specifically about how those are affordable and the difference between those two types of affordability, what affordable requirements those are meeting. I'm generally familiar with the county's requirements, but I'm curious to hear specifically and precisely what you're talking about here.
So the general requirement for the county has been, it is right now, is that 15% of the units are affordable. And that means there's language, of course, that goes with it, which generally means that it's affordable for people who make 80% of the median income. Again, there's a lot of levels of affordability, but that's what's been assigned to this. So what we would build is the habitat units in some of these units as required. And whether the county designates those as affordable, it doesn't matter to us. But the balance of these units, these bonus cottage units are going to be of the same design, but they're not required to be affordable. But just by their nature, they will be.
Can you tell us a price for the affordable?
Well, the most you can charge right now for any home that's affordable is $247. So some of these will be sold and some will be rented. And there's a very clearly defined rent schedule as well.
Okay, Michael, did you have any? You're good. Can you talk a little bit about like the southern end of this? I mean, because it kind of cuts off and I don't see where the trail goes.
Well,
What's going on down there?
You have a railroad here.
Uh-huh.
Our property goes right up to the railroad.
So that trail just stops at the railroad tracks?
Yeah, it can't go any further.
I don't really see the purpose of it.
Well, it's just a little tiny tip left.
Okay.
That most likely that trail would loop around and go back this way. So
I see.
Right there.
So are you cutting down trees to put that little trail in?
We don't touch this land at all.
Okay.
200 feet wide by 600 feet long. We don't touch it all. There's a stream there. The stream's literally only 12 or 18 inches wide, but we don't touch any of that.
Okay. Well, do any other committee members want to speak right now, or Mark, are you raising your hand again, or?
Yeah, I got two remaining questions, one for
Sure.
the developer, one for county staff, and part of this is.
Oh, Ann, hi.
I'd like to get this kind of on record. So for the developer, part of your packet going forward, are you going to be submitting a, impartial roadway VDOT study, engineering study, environmental study as part of your packet going forward that the public will be able to review?
Well, the VDOT does their own study. We feed them information. And so that we had nothing to do with that. The one thing that they have told us is that they thought this would be a circle eventually here, and we're prepared to dedicate what's needed here to create that circle. But again, that's a VDOT assignment. They have it all worked out.
What about general engineering studies for roadway, your engineering studies for your plans? That will be included in part of your packet for public comment, correct?
Yeah, we, the engineers, of course, design it.
I understand.
That gets processed through the county engineering department.
Okay. And is your part of your packet, will you include because you're moving a lot of dirt here, especially, again, I go back to that slope. Will you include an environmental study for the amount of dirt that you're moving and disrupting?
Well, let me see. Justin, you want to address that? Justin's the engineer.
Hey, Vito, I'll hop in for the moment. Justin's on as well. But as far as a full environmental study, so we submit a conceptual grading plan with our application materials. And there is a steep slope there on Park Ridge Drive. And as Vito described, we're putting a retaining wall there, and we're really, there is a grade change, but we're working with the land as much as we can here. So those units will actually, their floor elevation will be lower than the road grade. We're not filling that area. It's the land is naturally sloping towards that stream, and we're working with that. So there was a conceptual grading plan submitted with the rezoning materials. We have the stream buffer area designated as a conservation area to not be touched. You know, as Vito said, all of these plans are submitted to the county. They're reviewed by engineering staff, and as needed, they request additional information. And we keep going to this review process until we provided sufficient information to the county to hopefully make a favorable recommendation on the application.
Oh, thank you. And the last question, general for county staff, and I'm just curious. When will the county release what schools this development would be zoned for? And when would the county do a cost benefit analysis to identify how much tax revenue will be generated from this development? What the added infrastructure cost would be for public services, and statistically, most likely that money's never actually fully returned on investment. So I guess I'm just curious as to when that cost benefit analysis would be, if it would be conducted, and when it would be made public. Thank you.
I'll go ahead and answer part of that. I mean, the review process is where we look at the cost and benefits of any of these proposals. So we evaluate impacts, you know, to schools, to emergency services, fire rescue, police, impacts to utilities. I don't know if I said already, transportation. So the existing road network that is adjacent to a project. And if during that review process, all of the review members or any of the review members responsible for one of those items identifies that this project is going to, put more stress on any of those items, that would be an unfavorable factor unless the developer puts forth something to offset their proposed impacts. I don't have like a dollar figure for tax revenue generation on this project, but again, all of those infrastructure impacts do get evaluated.
No, I appreciate your response. Thank you. My questions are geared for this environment, so our citizens who are attending can hear these responses and be on the lookout and hopefully receive future information from both the developer and the county. Thank you.
I'm not an expert, but I'm pretty sure with the redistricting, they were working with the updated land use designations. So this area would be going to Crozet with when they haven't finished that redistricting, but as far as I understand, this would be going to Crozet, which has a increased capacity for a few more people.
Longer.
Not for much longer. All right, Anne, do you want to go ahead?
There we go. Thank you very much. I'm so glad that my earlier meeting got out early so I could listen in. Regarding the cost analysis question earlier, I think it's time for the staff to look at that overall. It's been probably 10 years since it was done previously. And it was, I don't know, $800 to $1,000 per unit residential across the county per year, less in revenue provided than the services cost. And that's ancient history, so it's probably much greater now. But that needs to be updated for the county as a whole. For a couple of comments and a couple of questions. For marking the edge of any grading, the Crozet area has had some pretty awful disasters in the last year about, oops, I just bulldozed the buffer. So I think it is your responsibility, Vito, and plan to put very unmistakable physical markings around this precious area that you're saving here, which is a really great idea for the conservation area to make sure that it is well protected. That will do a lot to bring some confidence from the community. Well, the other thing about trees, I know that quite a few neighborhoods, but most particularly recently Old Trail, there are these very narrow planting strips. And in the planting strips have been planted trees that were enormous. And then within 4 or 5 years, the roots are pushing up the sidewalks and the branches are crashing into the houses. So while it doesn't require you to put in middle-sized trees, I urge you to put in more of the smaller trees and fewer of the giant trees in order to prevent this from happening to this delightful neighborhood, because these ones you've chosen, whatever they are, lindens or something, I think are not beating on the houses nearly as badly as the giant oaks that were planted over in Old Trail just 10 years ago. So I'll just pass that along.
Good.
Will your company keep the units that are for rent, or will they be then left to others to buy and then rent?
Let me see, that's a good question. Obviously, the habitat units are going to be sold. That's the nature of what they are.
And they'll,
Yes. And these will be both rented and sold. And to what proportion, we simply don't know. Somebody like Kelsey, who just spoke, she says, I would love to own that building right there. I live in the townhouse and rent the units below. I mean, it's a wonderful investment and help a young person pay for the mortgage. So to answer your question, we don't know the proportion of it, but some is sold and some is rented.
Right,
Okay,
but
so
who
how
rents
do you-
them? Who rents them?
how do you determine the income eligibility for the properties that we're calling affordable, those 77 units, which I'm thrilled about, that we're making sure that those are being rented by people who really need them, as opposed to someone who jumped on a great opportunity, but really could afford a higher priced unit?
Well, let's see. Perhaps you didn't hear the story about the what happens here at what happened here at Wickham Pond. These were built as affordable.
Okay,
They're rented as affordable, and the units below were rented as affordable. The affordable timetable expired 3 years ago, and the owner of these says the rents really haven't changed. So the excellent news is, by their nature, you're never going to be able to charge very much for them because they are a 2-bedroom flat. They're only going to rent for so much. Again, they have to be, some of them have to be controlled over 10 years, but beyond that, there's no reason to think the rents are going to go up very much. And it's anyway, 77 units is a lot of units.
Mhm.
And there's no guarantee for that, but of course, they have to qualify initially. The county reviews those applicants. And the other units are exactly the same size. So they're bound to rent for about the same.
When you say there's no guarantee for that, you mean there's no guarantee that there will be 77 affordable units?
No, well, that's true, but there's also no, when the 10 years expires,
Okay,
there's no guarantee that those prices will remain. But I'm repeating myself, but just by their nature, by their design, by their size, the fact they don't have enclosed parking, they're only going to be able to rent for so much. I mean, look at those little efficiency units. You're not going to get, you're going to get $800 for that if it's affordable or market rate. They just simply can only get so much. And there's only so much you can get for that 2-bedroom. Again, some of them are required
right.
to have a price. You got that?
And do you
Okay.
want to go through, I know, like, we haven't gotten any of the neighbors to speak yet,
Okay.
so go through your parts now.
I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Okay, I mean, you had good, we can come back to you, Ann. So Carolyn, if we can let Eric speak. Oops.
All right, Eric, you're unmuted. Please state your name, address, if you're affiliated with a group or organization, and you can start talking at any time.
My name is Eric Schmitz. I live in Western Ridge. I'm one of the adjacent property owners to this potential development. My address is 1099 Autumn Hill Court, of course, in Crozet. I'm not part of this committee. I was first made aware of this development due to the written notice that was provided to me. So I'd like to thank Mr. Chetta for all the work you've done to notify me so that I could engage and give some feedback on this. I actually have prepared a brief slide presentation. I can do it in probably 10 minutes or less. And I have 4 areas of concern. Allie, if you have that presentation.
Yeah, if Vito, if you can stop screen sharing, I can share Eric's.
It says, let me see, new share. Is that what do I press?
I don't know. Is there like a stop sharing for you?
You can do stop sharing, right? There you go.
Thank you. Whoever's in charge of it.
Thank you. Yeah, if you could pull that up. So I just wanted to say that this ZMA process is so valuable because it specifically engages adjacent property owners like myself. This is really the first time I brought this to our homeowners association earlier this week. We had a discussion and we put together just an initial list of concerns. So if you go to the next slide, Allie, just in short, here are the initial ones, aside from Mark's good comments around traffic and existing infrastructure and his overarching idea that I think we would get behind, which is just because you can doesn't mean we should. But I'd like to go through a couple of facts that need to be considered. One is the stream, Mr. Chetta, that you're talking about not disturbing or asking variances around. Those are the first 2 concerns. The third is, and I think you've actually covered it here today, just how we communicate with adjacent property owners regarding density. I'll get to that in a minute. And then I'd like to just go back into history a little bit and talk about some of the other relevant zoning decisions to this property. So if you go a slide forward, this is a diagram from your application. And as you've spoken to it, there's a stream shown in blue with a 100-foot buffer around it that you won't disturb. It then joins a red basin area. And then if you look on the other side of the clinic in the upper left-hand corner, you'll notice another part of a stream. Well, that actually used to be the same stream. So if you go to the next slide, I just wanted to make I want to make sure that before we entertain any plan, that we're depicting the actual features of the property. So there's no stream shown in that red circle. Can you go to the next slide? So if you go to the recently approved master plan and you look at the parks and green space, what you can see if you zoom in, I know the font's not great, is that stream continuing all the way to the front of Western Ridge through one of the parcels, especially the one you were talking about with the apartments, which is, by the way, that's what we used to call efficiency in units. I called them apartments. Okay, can you go to the next slide? So you also mentioned some plats in your proposal. So I did take the opportunity to go and pull the plats relevant to that property. And sure enough, since the beginning of time, there has been a stream recognized by the county, as shown in that red circle. There's a dotted line that is the continuation of that stream through the plat. The recent tax map actually shows it now that we've disturbed it with the Park Ridge entrance, that it actually runs to the 240 intersection. That stream, by the way, connects all the way to the Licking Hole Basin and through these two properties. So if you can go to the next slide. So to beat a dead horse, I just want to point out it's pretty obvious that stream exists on Google Maps. You can see the vegetation jutting out there. That's because there's a stream there, and anyone who lives in this community will notice that, as you would expect, there's a lot of wildlife that visit that stream and call that home. There's a picture I took when I first heard of the property. I didn't think that was quite well enough documented, but if you go to the next slide, Allie. The snow gave us a good opportunity to see how that stream functions. And so I walked the stream. Here are the pictures from the beginning of the Western Ridge property at 240, following all the way down to the basin and into the buffer area that you already recognize. So I think that stream needs to be put on the plan and incorporated, as well as the 100-foot buffer required by the county. We also had a lot of discussion earlier. Mark was pointing out, the amount of fill that would be required to, take care of that slope where you're planning the habitat housing, which, by the way, I'm a huge supporter of. We in this community know that slope is to be the sledding hill. If you come out this Sunday, I think we're expecting a foot of snow. You're going to see people from all over the community enjoying that hill. And so I'd like the character of the existing community to be recognized. We may be building playgrounds and pickleball, but there is already a community use associated with this property. So let me pause. This is my first question. What are your plans for that part of the stream?
Okay, let's see. You do realize that every single department of the county is involved in all of these projects. Engineering is one of them you're talking about right now. Engineering has reviewed this, and they have given us the boundaries of the disturbed area, and our plan is consistent with that. So again, you'd have to trust the fact that the county engineer knows what they're doing, and they're certainly looking out for the public.
So thank you for that. Who would I take that up with the county to figure out why it conflicts with the plat and the Crozet master plan?
There's clearly an answer, and Frank Pohl, who's a county engineer, POHL, can answer that for you. He knows the site very well.
Okay. And so I think what I'm hearing you say is if Frank Pohl says there's a stream there, you won't disturb it or ask for variances around it.
He's the one who told us what to do.
Okay, fair enough. Second point, if you would, Allie.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you, because I think it's helpful to see this slope where Kelsey said that's where you're going to build a retaining wall. It's just helpful to see these
with
pictures.
the lower red arrow on this drawing here, there'll be a retaining wall there. Literally, as far as I know, it may be the only retaining wall on that site.
Okay.
So, that was, I think one place where if the stream exists, it's clearly in violation of the county code. The second place where I believe it's in violation is that you're requiring with that road on your plan to cross that stream again. And while you may cross a stream, and I'm just a layman, I'm reading the county code, quite frankly, for the first time. It's very much discouraged to cross a stream more than once on a particular piece of property. In fact, it actually says the administrator is limited to only one crossing. So if you go to the next slide, I'd like to point out this property actually has already crossed the stream twice as it exists today. So if you remember, if I look at that little red box there, the stream used to connect over through the clinic, but it was crossed by Park Ridge Road. So that was the first time it was crossed. Okay. You can actually see the culverts under Park Ridge Road down at the bottom and how that stream has been disturbed back in 1996. If you go to the next slide. So I also pulled the plat that you referenced for this property, and it actually hasn't been updated since 1954. That's a wonderful thing. But between these two properties, literally the dividing line, the boundary, is what used to be called Creek Road. It was a county-owned road, apparently referred to as Cree Road. And it runs from 240. It is not the entrance to the farm, and it runs from 240 and it comes all the way up around that curve. It crosses the stream at the red arrow. So I walked the property, I looked at it, sure enough, there's a culvert shown in the bottom part of the picture from when the stream was crossed the second time. So in your plan, if you will go to the next slide. Actually, I'm sorry, could you reverse twice, Allie?
Is this right?
There, right there. The red arrow shows where you're going to need to cross it a third time. And I previously heard you say you weren't going to ask for variances. So the question is, if the stream exists and you have to cross it a third time, why should we do that?
By the way, Kelsey, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, sure. And Justin, I'll invite you to chime in as well. I believe the stream crossing relates to a particular lot, and not the entirety of the length of a particular waterway. So I'll say, as just to take it a step back, I mean, from that, as where we have been told where the stream starts, from the county, from the Army Corps of Engineers, we are not proposing an additional stream crossing. But if there was a stream, I believe those regulations apply to a particular lot.
Yeah, and that, so that crossing, actually, the boundary between these two parcels, half of that road is on each property, half of that crossing is on each property. Okay, so if you'd go, I know I'm running short on time, and I certainly want to get back to Ms. Malik and others that have questions. So let me get to the point 3. So this is just a point for clarity of communication with the community. When you ask for 157 units, but the yellow boxes, when you count them up, are 115, it just doesn't truly, I think, visually show the density that you're requesting. So at a minimum, I understand it now, having dedicated an hour and a half to this meeting and listening. But I think you ought to very clearly demonstrate that there are apartments on these properties. And that, I think that sort of clarity and communication is necessary to get sufficient impact or feedback from the community. And then we'll go to the last issue, if you would. For anybody that is looking at this like me, as a non-real estate person and just a citizen who's really, quite frankly, seeing it for the first time, the density that you are asking for is the same that we're seeing in the Old Trail Village community. That's what you're asking for on a property that has been zoned R1 since the beginning of time. Just some perspective here. Could we go to the next slide? On the fringe of the growth area, by the way. Final piece is, goes back to the original Wickham Pond property and its zoning decision that was approved by the board back in 2006. There was a different master plan back then, and we all know plans adjust. They're blunt tools. But these zoning decisions are more like scalpels. They're precise. They take into facts on the ground that no large overarching strategic plan could ever tackle. And so when the last time the Board of Supervisors approved the zoning for Wickham Pond, they noted a couple things. Number one, they noted the stream. They were worried about the stream. Number two, the road crossing that you have there in Wickham Pond that could theoretically connect to Park Ridge was an option to be discussed later. It was not the tail that was going to wag the dog of this zoning. But what it specifically says is that Wickham Pond was the edge of development. So as you head along 240 toward town, Wickham Pond was supposed to be the last residential development. The rural property was supposed to be a visual buffer to delineate those two areas of activity. And the blue property, the one near that I'm talking about, has a stream on it, which is zoned light industrial. Notice the expanse of turquoise blue that goes all the way into town. There was a logic there in how it was zoned previously. So yeah, I also want to point out that specifically in the minutes around this zoning application was the comment that the intention was to preserve that rural area as an open space for historical and agricultural purposes, period. That was the purpose. And so if you go to the last slide, so I'm not speaking for everyone in Western Ridge, but our homeowners association does plan to be deeply engaged in this process. And in part because we're one of the first neighborhoods built here, and we think, we are the neighborhood model. We've been a good neighbor to Crozet. Despite what any zoning recommendation may label itself, the fact of the matter is this property is where the bird watchers enjoy nature. There's fishing, hiking, dog walking. You drive into our neighborhood, you'll see touch football on any warm day. Of course, the sledding hill that I think you're going to need to remove if we allow this to proceed. I just want to point out, on our side of the tracks, there are 40 acres of open space and greenery that your Wickham Pond residents are currently enjoying. Those 40 acres are owned by Western Ridge. We maintain that area for the community. In fact, I'll just tell you, your Wickham Pond residents have manufactured a cut through from your property across the railroad tracks so that they can get into that area. And so, just to summarize and put a blunt point on it, I'd like you to acknowledge the stream, the variances you would require, and vacate this request. And Ann, I would hope that as we move forward, you'd consider all of this and advocate for leaving these parcels where they were zoned originally. There was a lot of wisdom in that. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Eric. I just think that was really great, considering that you only found out about this last week. And I really appreciate all the photos you took. And I'm wondering if Cameron or someone can specifically address, like, while Eric was talking, I was also checking the new plan, and the conservation chapter does show the stream buffer through that entire parcel. So I am also a little confused and really appreciate bringing this up. So I understand Mr. Pohl said that wasn't a stream buffer, but why is it shown on our brand new map as stream buffer?
Actually, if it's okay, I can address this. I was just pulling up in my email while those slides were being shared and realizing that we have a mistake on our master plan that was just adopted. The conservation map shows the incorrect stream buffer. The land use map shows the correct one. I pulled up in my email the reason that the conservation map shows that stream buffer is because it was there was an assessment done on it at the end of September, where Frank, the county engineer, went out with the Army Corps of Engineers to assess the stream, and they determined that portion that has been taken off of the land use map is actually not a stream. And so we took it off land use, we missed it on our conservation map. And
that is so upsetting. I'm just going to interject because I'm feeling a little emotional about this. Where else on I feel like we need to do a thorough study of this conservation map to find out what else is misleading, because you open that chapter and it's like, oh, look at all the streams and trails and green space. And then we get a proposal and we find out, oh, just kidding, that's Eric just took pictures of it. It looked like a stream to me. And now we're being told, oh, well, now that there's a proposal, we've looked at it again, and you're allowed to build all over it. I'm just like, I feel like now I'm gonna have to go double check all of this conservation map.
I really apologize for the error. It was the last minute change and we were scrambling to get it on the maps and we missed that one. That was the only stream change that I'm aware of. But we can go in and just double check.
Yeah, it's just, God, we worked so hard for 2 years on this, and then this is what, and then, this is how we find out that it's wrong. All right, sorry. It's just
Can I jump in
upsetting.
quickly just to give a little bit of extra
Yeah.
on these buffers? It might help folks. Justin Shamp, the engineer for the project, just to give a little clarity on the confusion of these buffers, is that the stream buffer comes from this water protection ordinance. There's a county ordinance, which if you're by right or rezoned is applicable. But the definition of if a stream buffer appears or not is not created by the comprehensive plan map, but actually by that ordinance. And it has a particular set of technical criteria in it that have to be confirmed in the field to know. So for example, there'll be properties that we will go out to and we would think there's no stream buffer there because it's not on the GIS map, but find on the ground there is a stream. And even though it's not on the map, a stream buffer is lawfully created when a land disturbance activity occurs. So the buffers aren't actually created by the comp plan map. They're actually created by the stormwater ordinance, and they're actually created when an activity occurs. So that's, I know that's, maybe a little confusing of things. That's just a function of how the county code is written. So you would have conditions in the ground can change effectively. And even, for example, you might have something that was platted as a stream 20 years ago, but then when an evaluation is done by the Army Corps 20 years later, things may have dried up, groundwater could have changed, and actually might no longer be a stream technically. The opposite can happen too, where a stream can form where a stream was not. So I think that's probably part of the confusion. That's why we had the county and the Army Corps involved to make a determination. But that's again why some of the comp plan maps are not truly the legal stream buffer maps. Those are defined by a different ordinance, and they're really based on what's on the ground. So hope that helps a little bit with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm sure, everyone's crossing their T's and dotting their I's. It's just too bad that this is what the community gets sold in the plan, and then, what actually what actually happens. But I'll let, we've got two more people and Anne. So what do you think, Anne? Should we let Kimberly or Matt or go first? So can we get Kimberly and then Matt?
Kimberly, you're unmuted. Please state your name, address, you're located, or where you're located, if you're affiliated with a group or organization, and your time starts when you start talking.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Gale. I am a resident of Crozet. I've lived here for 24 years. I live in Western Ridge. I can't see myself on the screen. Am I center to?
Yeah, you're fine. We don't get video for you guys.
Okay, but you
But we
guys
can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. So let's see. I live in Western Ridge. My address is 5083 Still Pond Court, Crozet. I'm a first grade teacher. And first of all, I want to say, Mr. Chetta to you and to Anne directly first, as I've been listening and learning more about all of this. Hold on just 1 second. Let me get where I can see Mr. Chetta. You had said, Mr. Chetta, that I hope I'm saying that correctly, that you were very proud of this plan. And Anne, you called this a delightful looking neighborhood, or a delightful neighborhood whenever you joined in. And I want to say this with all the respect that I can muster. But this neighborhood, as I'm looking at it on the plan, and prior to being a teacher, I was a interior designer, and I am used to looking at plans. But this plan reminds me of the row houses that my Italian immigrant grandparents moved into in South Philly, that I went to visit when I was very young. And eventually they escaped South Philly and moved into South Jersey, where there was more green space and land. The level of packing people in is something that is mind-boggling to me. And I say that that's coming from a person in my 50s who has grown two grown children, but I teach young children, and I see how they play, and I see how they need to run around. Quickly, the MacArthur Foundation did a wonderful study that connected overcrowded housing with serious mental health issues. So my first question is that if this is not overcrowded housing, so this would go to Mr. Vito, 157 houses on 17.5 acres of land, what would be?
Well, I'm not sure that's a question.
Yeah, actually, really, quite literally. I mean, other than high-rise buildings.
Well, here's a couple of comments. When the comp plan was developed, and I was part of that 27 years ago, a lot of attached housing was proposed. And the builders said, what in the world are you doing? People aren't going to buy attached housing. It's interesting, in this project, 157 units are all attached. And so is out of bounds. And so many communities are. It's surprising that people don't need the land that they used to. I'm just go ahead and look at the backyards of Wickham Pond and the single family homes. They just simply don't get used. So people are.
Or are they walking through the cut through to Western Ridge's green space?
Whatever, it's
okay.
It's certainly, I feel it works, and people will like it. It is urban. The townhouse area certainly is urban, and I can appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's urban, but it doesn't have any of the amenities of an urban, of an actual urban living, area. It's just got the density, not the infrastructure.
Here's another observation. When we processed Wickham Pond, it was the same process as this. And you got neighbors showing up, and invariably people say, why are you doing it? Why don't you leave it a farm? And I can appreciate the folks who live around here. Here is 17.5 acres with an abandoned house on it. What would motivate you to support a project like this? You want to see it left as open space. Now, the county is just the reverse. The county is saying we need 600 or 700 new homes a year, and we want them in a well-designed community in the growth areas, and that's what this is.
All right, let's hear from Matt.
All right, Matt, please state your name, address, where you're located. If you are a member of a group or organization, you can start talking at any time.
Okay, thank you all. Yes, I'm Matt Wimmer. I live at 2022 Chessie Circle. So I'm one of the Wickham Ponders. I'm a member of the HOA board at Wickham Pond and am a civil engineer. And I'll keep it sort of short. Maybe I'm on the few and far between, but I'm not surprised by the development. It was going to come. I mean, Crozet is a designated growth area. I'm not a fan of the density, but really my main concern from Wickham Pond standpoint is the road that's going through Wickham Way. I think Mark touched on it. There's significant traffic concerns, and Wickham Way is going to turn into a cut through when Park Ridge gets backed up. There's a 4-way stop right there at Ridge at Wickham Way. That's where everyone in my side of the neighborhood gets on the school bus. It's where they all get off the school bus. And so when I looked at the new comp plan, it looks like the little open space that Vito, you were showing is maybe commercial development in the future. Looks like that's been earmarked back to residential. And so if we're now showing that area as residential, I would like to see that roadway eliminated and put a walking path between the two neighborhoods. I'm all for the connectivity between the two neighborhoods, but I see no need for Wickham Ponders to go into Montclair through that cut through. We can very easily make it out to 240 and turn down Park Ridge or the other connector from Montclair out to 240. Same thing for the other neighborhood. As a parent, I have 2 young kids. And the thing I like about Wickham Pond is it's a pretty secluded neighborhood. You got 2 ways in, 2 ways out. And so if you don't live in the neighborhood, there's no reason for you to drive through there. We don't have people buzzing through going 30, 35 miles an hour. And that's my main concern from a safety standpoint. If we have that connecting road, is you're going to have people, Park Ridge already gets backed up both in the mornings and in the evenings with people trying to make a left-hand turn onto 240. So what's that road going to turn into? You're going to turn right down it and try and cut through Wickham Pond to get to 240. Extrapolating that a little bit more, and this is more towards the county from a road development, this new development is going to make the 250, 240 intersection that much worse. So I hope and so this really isn't a part of the development, but I hope the county is forward thinking enough that we really got to do something about the roads at that intersection because it's already bad.
Yeah.
And Vito, I think you touched on it already. I think the other thing I hope to see is that we maintain that tree buffer between the two neighborhoods, like on the backside of Delilah and Montclair, similar to what Wickham shares with the Highlands right now.
Thanks, Matt. A couple things. We're certainly willing to eliminate that connector between the two communities, but you could be assured the county will not accept that. They definitely want them connected. Yeah, that's it. By the way, Valerie had a Christmas tree in her background when she was speaking before. Is that for next year or is that for last Christmas? I realize she's muted.
She's recused, so I think you're allowed to keep them up till, as long as you want. February 14th or so. All right. Well, thank you, Matt, for coming. It's good to be able to hear from Wickham Pond as well. And maybe we can go to Anne. I know you had more comments.
Super quickly, when was the stream assessment done? Did someone mention last August or September?
So what is the question? I'm sorry.
When was this Army Corps of Engineers out to tell us that those pictures that Eric took of a stream it wasn't a stream? Because was it during the drought is my question.
I want to clarify something. Many years ago, when the clinic was built across the street, there was a stream that went through there, and that showed on the maps you just saw. But
Yes.
that got buried. A road went over. It got buried.
Yeah, and we just saw the pictures of the culvert and the stream going through it onto your parcel.
The county just simply didn't change their drawing, and they recently realized they need to change the drawing. It wasn't an attempt.
With your application, it sounds like.
Well,
correspondence I got from the county engineer was September 16th.
Right, and this plan was submitted a year ago as well, correct?
I can't answer that. I'll let.
Well, it's fine. I'm just saying, was the updated, was this done in a drought or not? I mean, just, when they go ahead and assess, 20 years later, how many times do they visit it when they determine that it's no longer a stream?
If I could jump in, Justin Schimpf again. So there's a uniform stream classification manual that the Army Corps uses essentially. So they did do the assessment in the fall, but like the presence of water itself is one indicator, but it's not the whole story. Likewise, while you see the water in the pictures now does not mean it's a stream. And so the way the assessment's done, it takes into account, signs on the ground that are historical that give the experts in that a feeling of, or indication of what it actually is. And so that question did come up, I think, as part of this review, and that's why it was done, to get an accurate understanding of what is it. Because again, like I say, I could point to other examples where we looked at projects and started a plan with no stream buffer on it to find there was one, because a stream existed, didn't. And so
and that's great. It just seems like in this particular case, I don't care about another project where you found a stream buffer. In this project, it looks like we have a stream buffer and now you found that it isn't one. So that's what I'm concerned with today. And it almost seems like the only reason there isn't a stream in this part now is because it was already crossed for Park Ridge Road 20 years ago or whenever that was. And it's now turned into a little trickle, and now you can say it's not a stream anymore. I'm not an expert in this. That's my concern.
Yeah, the stream, but the stream that is in fact a stream, was piped prior to the adoption of the stream buffer ordinance, is the reason that happened.
Yeah. Mark?
Yeah, I promise, Ally, last time I'll talk. Hey, so Justin, I have a comment for Justin, a comment for Ms. Malik on some county stuff, and then for the developer. So Justin, the previous topic on the stream, when you're reading the ordinance, in layman's terms, for general public to understand, even if the stream is not on the map and you find out that there's a stream there, the buffer applies. Did I understand that correct? Okay, so I'm sorry, I forget the gentleman's name who had the wonderful slide deck. If that stream is there and exists, based on Ms. Malik nodding her head, the stream buffer would therefore apply. Is that correct? If those pictures and slides are accurate and there's a confirmed stream there, now the 100-foot buffer applies.
If there was a confirmed stream there, there's a confirmed non-stream on this location. That's why the county staff updated their map as they did.
Okay, so I pose a question to Ms. Malik now. Can the county revisit this? Because I foresee a very contentious public engagement through the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors hindering around this possible other issues, but around the stream. Can the county revisit this and look and can, I just, according to these pictures, there's a stream there. I don't think anyone can deny that. There's a stream there. And I'd hate for us to move all this dirt if it comes to that. And then we have the, oh crap moment that, oh, there's a stream there and we violated the buffer.
I am happy to ask both Vinnie Pirro, the Army Corps representative, and Frank to provide all the information that they have. I do know that there are soil types when you're looking at a stream bed that's downcut. I had the engineer out to our property to actually verify what I've been trying to get on the maps for 10 years was real. And he said, well, of course, because look at it. There is all the historic undercut and all the different soil types that are showing. So he's very capable, but I do want to find out more. about exactly what they found. And that's where I want to start.
And I agree with you. And I think that will understanding why the appropriate engineers, Army Corps of Engineers, county came to that conclusion that there is a stream that does not exist, I think is very important as this project continues to move forward. So Ms. Malik, I really appreciate you taking that on. I want to bring one point back. So the public comment about, look, this growth and density are two different things here. County growth for Crozet and packing sardines into a housing development here, those are two really different things. The developer mentioned commercial space as well. So not only are you going to have 157 housing units, you're going to have commercial space as well. I am all for business. I'm all for bringing more amenities and business and entrepreneurship to the area. But don't forget about that. On top of the 157 housing units, is you're now going to throw in commercial space into this project as well. And then the last piece I have just for Ms. Malik, some of the infrastructure issues that were brought up. Would this development, if it were to be approved, push Crozet infrastructure projects more to the front line, such as Eastern Ave Connector Road on the south end into Corey Farms, the 240, 250 roundabout, the other road projects? How would this development with the upwards of at least 300 more vehicles gonna push some of these infrastructure projects over the edge? Thank you.
I can quickly tell you that the 240, 250 roundabout is going to bid, going to bid in about 8 months from now. And moving forward is part of a bundle that's already funded, so it is en route. And it got pushed back 1 year because others were getting done first, like 250, 151, and the one in Keswick. Secondly, the Eastern Avenue, we have done the engineering and scoping, and we have a fully prepared application, which has already been submitted to VDOT for revenue sharing, which means they pay half the money. And I have been working very hard to make sure that the county share is hidden under a rock somewhere, so that when we get that approval, we will at least be partway there as far as getting our share squared away. So I don't think either of those two projects would be affected by this one way or the other. But it certainly does increase the numbers of people who will need and benefit from both of those, all of those projects. I mean, the roundabouts that are planned for down by the trestle and also by Western and Old Trail Drive, all these things, they're all interconnected. The community is so small that everybody needs every place in order to function really, really well. That's the update I have on that.
Thank you. You know that Eastern Ave connector is near and dear to my heart, don't you?
Okay, do we have any other comments or questions? I really appreciate the, all of you guys coming and listening to the neighbors and ourselves. And I like the commitment to the affordable units. I think, my objections are mostly disappointment about the stream and just think it's just extremely dense. So, I was one of the few people who was not in favor of the higher density for this when we were looking at the land use map last year. But so no one's surprised that I think this is too dense for that property. But I do appreciate the Habitat for Humanity, and I think that it's great to be working with you local people who really know Crozet and have experience here. So I appreciate that. And I think you did a great job tonight. So thank you, Vito and Justin and Kelsey. Anne.
Thank you also. And Cameron, I would leave a question with you. I will also be, sending an email with this, but to, if that Wickham Way connection could be pedestrian with removable bollards for emergency vehicles and therefore prevent cut-through traffic, I would hope that we would find a way at the county to work on that. And I will be contacting you and Charles and Jody about that. Thank you very much.
All right. If that's it, we can leave it there for Montclair. And move on to our committee business. Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. You guys are welcome to stay, but you also don't have to. So everybody else, I don't have any news except for just to clarify about our committee membership and when we do nominations and assuming he is supported by the committee, Joe takes over.
So I just checked and your elections will be May. So
May? No way, what the heck? You guys, I thought I was done. May, but I'm done in March.
So your appointments happen in April for new members. That's your kind of when the memberships expire, and then you do your elections the following month.
However, I'm
Where
sure
did March
that
come from? March
I'm
is
sure
when
that there could be a substitute chair.
expire. March is when I expire. I'm ready to
Yeah.
hand this over to Joe. March is when I thought I was done.
So that could be your term ends at the end of March, and then new appointments would come on in April, and then typically we do the elections the following month. So I think that's where that's
Okay. I think maybe we've done things earlier in the past, but that's fine.
Yes,
So
we have.
okay.
That's true. And I think the pandemic threw things off completely because we didn't meet for several months. And so I think that just got the schedule out of whack. So
Can we reach out to those people who have not been coming and get their formal resignation and or get them to come? Because we've just got like 5 or 6 people that aren't showing up now.
Mhm.
Okay.
you
Is that
need to
something that
do
you could-
that.
Is that,
Like,
I mean,
do that?
if it's my job, I will do it. If it's not my job, I would appreciate you doing it.
I'd be happy to do it, but there's no clear policy on whose role it is. Just it needs to be done in writing.
Can someone send me a list of who it is so that I'd be glad to do it? I just want to make sure it's hard for me to go through all the minutes because I didn't keep track of who was where, doing attendance, but I was listening in.
Sure. I mean, I haven't seen David Mitchell for several months. I haven't seen Matthew Slats. I haven't seen, I think Katya might still be on our,
Well, she's officially resigned months ago.
okay. So
Okay.
she's just on the roster still for some reason.
Yeah. Okay. I'll check with David.
Is that it?
So that's 3, and Doug resigned.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 4 people we need to find out, or 3 people we need to find out about, and we have possibly 4 spaces. So,
And then Costas is done
oh,
after March, right? Who,
I
somebody,
just got a thing that said I got a option to renew for another year. So I
yes,
guess I think I have
Okay.
another year.
okay.
he's just gotten here. Come on, we can't let him go yet. That's not.
I don't want him to go, believe me. So nobody's expiring in March that we know of.
I'll have to get the list out. Ask
Okay.
Travis for the list because I don't know. It's too complicated.
Yeah. Okay.
Very good. And I'm sure you can designate Joe to be, he's the vice chair to run the meeting if you decide you want to. That's fine.
So I will see what's on
Allie,
the
I
agenda.
have the list up. It has you going to March 23.
Yeah, I know I have one more year.
Okay.
I just,
Just
I
last
thought
year's.
that, I thought March is when we switch, because March is when I expire. I thought that was when we usually changed hands.
Yeah, so some folks are expiring in 2022 and some in 23. It's not.
And my second 2-year term expires in March as well.
And are you re-upping, if you would like to share?
I'm willing to serve again in the future, but probably not immediately again.
Okay.
Just have a bunch of commitments coming on, so.
So we have a few, I don't know if we have any, we've got 19 folks still on. So if any of you are interested in applying, or if you have a friend, tell them to go to the committee, commissions and boards. And if you scroll all the way down, there's an apply link. And you too can be one of the panelists at our monthly meetings.
Do we have anyone who has expressed interest yet?
We have Ken Thacker. He's applied. That's all I've heard of. But Ann is the one in charge of those. Okay, so I don't know. Does anybody have any other announcements? Valerie?
I want to just clarify, while you all were discussing the other item, I took a fresh look at the minutes from last month. We actually already had approved the November minutes.
Okay.
We approved them at the end of the meeting because
That's
we
what
did
I
not have
thought.
a quorum at the beginning. So I will note that for the record.
That's fine.
And I will also include again in the minutes the link to apply to the committee for those who might see the minutes.
That's good.
I thought maybe you were taking down your tree while you were locked out, but.
No, I was on vacation between Christmas and New Year's, and then my flights were all canceled, and so we didn't get back. And then we got back to the snow and no power, and many more important things came up. Other than I got the lights and the decorations off of it. I just haven't dragged it out of the house yet.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know. Maybe that's a potted plant.
No, it's definitely. Although it's probably a major fire hazard at this point. I need to get it over to the park so they can recycle it. So anyway, yeah. So.
All right. Well, that's all I've got. I guess I have to read my thing. My printer wasn't working, so I didn't have it ready to go in hand. All right. The Crozet CAC's next meeting is tentatively scheduled for February 9th at 7 p.m. Does anybody know what we're going to talk about yet? Do we have anything?
So you all may have another community meeting for just a small proffer change to the Glenbrook rezoning.
Okay.
We haven't reached out to the applicant yet. I don't think that will be like a really big one. So
Okay.
there might be time for something else. And I think climate action plan was kind of one of the topics that was at the top of the list. So I was gonna see if they could come out.
That'd be great. Thank you.
I'd be interested also for Ms. Malik, the infrastructure package, and what does that mean for Albemarle County and maybe even Crozet in the coming months as that continues to unfold down through federal to state to local.
Thank you. I get, as rules and things develop, it seems like every month there's a new updated set of rules, but as we have anything that's remotely final, then we'll be able to go to work on how to use it. But that will be discussed frequently at board meetings, and I will do my best to keep people updated on that.
Great.
And economic development was going to come at some point, or maybe they did already. Did I miss that one? We did that. Okay, very good. I think I was there. Okay.
Yeah. It's fine. All right. So February 9th at 7 p.m. opportunities for the public to access and participate in the electronic meeting will be posted at a later date in accordance with emergency ordinance number 20-A16 and open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. I look forward to seeing you all then. Stay well.
Happy New Year,
Bye.
everybody.
Yep,
Great to
Happy
see
New
your
Year.
faces.
Thanks for coming.